What is going on, my lovely, lovely, lovely YouTube viewers? Here we are, finally. I promised you, UR Dream Ticket, SR Dream Tickets. We finally got them. Today, if you've been logging in properly every day, today should have been the day you got your first SR Dream Ticket. Well, your only SR Dream Ticket for the new world. And people have been asking me out while we're streaming, yo, Rye, what should I use these for? You know, like I've got them sitting in my pockets. What should I use them for? So I've had my lovely, lovely new player council assistants in the Discord come up with a nice little list, put my opinions in as well, and ultimately came up with these options for you guys. These are going to be our top picks here at the DLE community for what you should be spending your dream ticket on. Now, a few things, a little bit of housekeeping before we get too far into it. Number one, there is currently, as of the upload of this video, a 50% gym sale going on, and a lot of these decks can be purchased within their box, within the 50% off gym sale. So I'll try to bring it up whenever I see the cards, but just be aware, I want this video to be for all of Arc 5 because this dream ticket is going to be here for an entire year, not just for when the 50% gym sale is going on. So I'll recommend cards that, you know, maybe you want to wait for a gym sale. It'll mostly be like mini boxes and stuff. But just in case you're watching this in the far off future, hello, how are you? Subscribe and all that. But also, you know, if there's a future gym sale, you can keep that stuff in mind. But even if I don't mention it, just keep that in mind that the gym sale is ongoing as of right now. The other thing, keep in mind, is this is specifically for the Arc 5 Dream tickets that we got. So there are older Dream tickets that we have. And all of those, if you want information on how to spend those gems, or I'm sorry, those dream tickets, I will link our older videos on those tickets underneath this video, and you guys can follow what to do for those dream tickets for you. All right, that's enough delay. Let's jump right into it. The UR Dream Ticket, my number one pick. I'm going to be honest with you guys, Floodgate Trap Hole. I think this card's amazing. You can use it as a brand new player. It'll carry some matches for you. Flipping this card essentially makes it so your opponent can no longer use that zone unless they have a tribute monster or something you know, in that capacity. And it stops so many cards, especially with pendulums coming out very, very soon. Well, I mean, they're out now, but, you know, like a real pendulum deck, the first pendulum deck, you know, it's Duel Links. Duel Links likes to play to anime, and pendulum being such a big part of the anime, there's for sure going to be at least one pendulum deck out there that does very, very well. So even though it's got limited to 3, I think it's still a fantastic option for your dream ticket. It can help you right now stop major boss monsters like Lunalight Saber Dancer and stuff like that very, very easily. So definitely put my recommendation in for the Floodgate Trap Hole. If not, there's also Cosmic Cyclone, another limit 3 card, also does well against Pendulum and is fantastic macro removal. It can help trigger skills as well, but there isn't as many skills out there that can take advantage of losing 1,000 life points like in the past. But sometimes you can get a sneaky skill in there. But for the most part, being able to banish a back row is very, very, very powerful. And especially if you're a new player, this is a fantastic card to pick up. Now, if you're a current player, Mystical Space Typhoon is available for the Dream UR ticket as of right now, which is very, very cool. This is definitely one of the bigger pickups if you have an older account that's been around for a while. Mystical Space Typhoon is the preferred method, at least until Pendulum becomes strong and maybe Cosmic will take over. But being able to MST Mystical Space Typhoon, a trap card, and turning off an opponent's treacherous trap hole is very, very powerful in our current metagame, making this card just, you know, the preferred way to go about it. But definitely, I would have a mix of both, if possible, for the upcoming metas. Next up, we have Forbidden Lance. Forbidden Lance is a fantastic reactionary card. It can be used offensively as well, but most of the time you're going to be using it in reaction. So instead, you know how like MST and Cosmic, you activate and you take out a back row. Forbidden Lance, you can use it in reaction to your opponent's back row, making them waste a specific back row, and you go in for Forbidden Lance. I think so far all these except MST are under the 50% gym sale, I should mention, so keep that in mind that if the gym sale is live, try to go with it for a lot of these for gems first. But that being said, I wouldn't recommend it because these are still main boxes. I would definitely prefer Yugioh for mini boxes when it comes to the 50% gem sale. And we'll talk about those as we get to the mini boxes. But Forbidden Lance, fantastic reactionary card, especially for any combo deck that you end up going through. Next up, Canadia, tried and true old Canadia. Canadia and Floodgate kind of share a spot similar to MST and Cosmic, where if there's a lot of targetable boss monsters, then Canadia kind of comes to the forefront. And it is also summonable from the graveyard. So there's a lot of potential when it comes to Canadia, but I think with Pendulums kind of having, or will have rather, I'm assuming, will have a fantastic appearance once they get more and more support. I think something like Floodgate that can flip multiple monsters in a single turn, especially when you go first, is going to be more of a power move. And not to mention the Paleozoic Canadia box is actually not that bad of a box. There's actually quite a bit of good stuff in there. So this is one of those boxes I'd recommend the 50% gem sale if it's available, because there's quite a few things you can actually use in there. You can actually get Needle Sealing. You can get like an Amazon deck type for farming the PvE, auto dueling decks. Unlike the Cosmic or the Cosmic and the Floodgate boxes, which are under 50% sale, but they don't give you a whole lot if you were to dig through the box. So generally speaking, when it comes to Canadia, I'd prefer to go into it with gems rather than Dream Ticket, but it's an option to consider either way. Next up, we have Divine Wrath, and Divine Wrath's an interesting one. It's definitely one of those, if you have a discard deck like Blue Eyes or something like that, you can use it with, you know, really no cost. But there are also free options and things like Ultimate Providence. So the only difference would be you'd actually have to keep a monster in hand with Ultimate Providence, and if you don't have a monster, Divine Wrath, or, you know, like if you want to be more flexible, Divine Wrath is generally better. Divine Wrath doesn't really come up too much in the metagame, and it's for a very specific deck. So if you're playing a deck like Blue Eyes that is very discard heavy, this may be worth considering, but definitely on my lower end of recommendations for you guys. Once you start running out of options of what you should get, this is kind of where we're going in when we talk about Divine Wrath. Next up, Needle Sealing, same situation with Canadia, amazing card to take out multiple monsters if your opponent's playing spammy cards for you. But again, this is one of those situations where I definitely would recommend going in with the 50% gem sale if possible, because you can grab Canadia and this, and you really, realistically, most decks only run one copy of this, so it's not like a major deal if you end up going for this. So, but it's something to consider if you already have your Canadias, or you just didn't get the necessary luck to get Needle Sealing. Might be able to, you know, you only need one of these for most decks, so pretty powerful pickup if you pick it up from there. Fiendish Chain is another one. Amazing generic trap card. Stops your opponent from attacking. Stops them from activating their effects. Stops on summon effects. Does have a weakness in being a continuous trap, so if it does get MST'd or Cosmic, you don't get anything out of it, so it can be sometimes a burden compared to things like Forbidden Chalice, where it's just an immediate effect that takes place. Or a lingering effect, I should say. But it's still a fantastic card to get. It is in a really good box that has just been recently nerfed, though. So there are things like DD Crow in there. There are things like Utopia, if you want to play the Utopia package. And Teller Knights, if you're interested in Teller Knights, although that's not even a rogue deck, it is at least, you know, another deck that you could play. This deck is not currently on the 50% off gem sale, though, so I would, if you were going to go for this card, you know, I would definitely use my UR Dream Ticket if this is something you're interested in. I would really only get this after you get the more standard stuff like Cosmic Cyclone, MSTs, Floodgate. If you have all of those, though, Fiendish Chain is a fantastic pickup for the UR Dream Ticket. Comes highly recommended from me. Next up, we have Rageekki Break. This one's a little bit harder to recommend, but definitely one to keep an eye on. It is in a box that isn't really that great anymore, but it is a mini box. So if you're going to play something like Blue Eyes White Dragon or any discard heavy deck, Rageekki Break's a fantastic pickup, and unlike something like Karma Cup, for example, it can also hit back row, so you can hit Pendulum Scales, for example, with this card. So fantastic for you know, decks that have a way to discard Shiranui, Blue Eyes, stuff like that, and still get advantage out of that. This comes with a little less recommendation. Definitely, if you're running out of stuff, you would start looking towards a Rageekki Break. you know, I try to put in some options in here for folks that are, you know, have older accounts and, you know, don't want the early recommended new player stuff. So this could be a good option if you don't want to go into that old pack. But again, 100 packs versus a main box, I would definitely try to get a main box card over a mini box card. But if you have nothing else, go for the Rageekki Break. Next up, we have Herald the Abyss. Herald the Abyss is actually a really nice card to out some monsters that can't be targeted. And, you know, you can't, for example, flip up Forbidden Lance in response to try and protect it, because this card affects the player, not the actual monster. And then on top of that, it has a 1500 life point requirement, which triggers quite a bit more skills than Cosmic Cyclone. Most decks, again, only run one copy of this, because you really rarely can you nuke your life points twice by 1500. Most of the time you get one shot and one shot alone. So if you have everything else on this list, could be a very good pickup for quite a few decks. So good card to keep in mind, especially if you want to lose life points or get rid of major boss monster like Saber Dancers or anything that can't be targeted, like Bloom, the new Meliodas Bloom, or Melodious, sorry, Bloom. She's got all these crazy things that stop her from being destroyed. This would be a card to take care of it if this, if it catches your fancy. Necro Valley, fantastic UR pickup. The only downside is most decks that end up playing this will end up playing this at 2 or 3 copies, so that's why I don't like to say, you know, go for the UR Dream Ticket. It also helps that the box that it's in is actually a pretty good box. It's the Invoke box. So there are fantastic, you can see there's Alistair, Invocation, Thunder Dragon Hawk, Samurai Destroyer. There's a lot of good stuff in that box. So usually I tell people, if you're going to go into that box sometime in your Duel Links career, I would just go for the box and not Dream Ticket anything out of it. Because the cards like Necro Valley, you really need more than one copy to make work. And it's not even guaranteed to be that good in ladder, where it would be more guaranteed in something like tournaments, for example. If you do want to go for Necro Valley, because it is a fantastic card to stop graveyard strategies like Shiranui Thunders, Fire Kings, Super Heavy Samurai, you know, they can't banish anything from their graveyard, can't do nothing like that. I would definitely recommend first going into this box, and if you get, you know, 1 to 2 Necro Valleys, then you can spend a Dream Ticket getting another one. But I wouldn't go right out the gate and get one. Then we have Ballista Squad, same thing for kind of Rageekki Break. Ballista Squad's a fantastic card, especially for decks like Shiranui and Gokis that can replenish their hand or use their graveyard. It's also good to clog up your board, or unclog your board, especially if we go back into a floodgate meta. This card can be used to, you know, pop those cards and create space on your board. But again, I don't heavily recommend it because it's in a mini box. The mini box isn't, again, not that great. Mini boxes tend to lose value over time as Konami nerfs the game. But if possible, you know, if again you have nothing else on this list that you want, or nothing else, you know, that's critical to you, Ballista Squad's a fantastic choice, and you can avoid going into the mini box and just skip right ahead to getting the Ballista Squad. Drowning Mirror Force is another fantastic card that's been seeing a lot of play. Battle Traps, for the most part, it either heavily punishes your opponent for misplaying into it, or heavily punishes you, because they are very easy to play around. But if you end up playing a deck like Yosenju or Fire King, that you know, it creates situations where your opponent has to decide to either swing or essentially lose the game, you could end up forcing them to go into Drowning Mirror Force, making it a fantastic pickup. It is one of those cards where you do need 2 to 3 copies to really make usefulness, because if you only have one of these, you know, hard drawing it and then the low chance of it actually going off usually doesn't make much of a difference in your games. But it's still a fantastic choice if you decide to play those more control-oriented strategies like Yosenju's, Fire Kings, even things like Shiranui, anything that wants to slow the game down and give you a chance to kind of come back a little bit before going off, you can use a Drowning Mirror Force for. Sphere Kuribo, this is actually one of those interesting cards, because kind of like Floodgate, I don't know if I mentioned Floodgate originally, but you can actually buy a Floodgate with real money, like straight up, for a set cost. Sphere Kuribo is another one of those cards to do that. Before, I would tell people to just you wait for like 50% gem sale for Sphere Kuribo, because it's not like a deck, it's not a card that's wildly used, but decks that do use it, it's like really nice, because to trigger Destiny Draw and stuff like that with Luna Lights, Fire Kings, Thunder Dragons, And you could also pick up things like Fusion Gate when you went for this card. Now, however, with Cyber Dragon being nerfed and this really being one of the only few good cards left from that box, it's very hard to recommend people to go in with the 50% gem sale. So ironically, it makes it a great dream ticket target, especially if you buy one with real money. I think it's like $5 or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's really, really cheap though. You're guaranteed it, and you get packs from the newest box. And then if you dream ticket this, you have 2 Sphere Kuribos. So if you have most other things, Sphere Kuribo is always a good choice. This card has literally been, it came out in the very first box of Duel Links, and it's still meta relevant to this day. That just shows you the power of Sphere Kuribo and how reliable it is. We also have Vermillion Dragon Mech. Vermillion Dragon Mech is one of the best rank 9 synchros, and there's a lot of decks that can make rank 9 synchros, especially if you're playing Thunder Dragons or Blue Eyes being a very popular deck. It's hard to recommend this card because it's in a box that actually has a lot of great synchros. So if you just run through it one time, you get things like Black Rose Dragon, you get Vermilion Dragon Mech, I believe Fortune Lady Every's in there for your spellcaster decks. But if you really just are looking for this specific card, you could just quickly grab this, or you could honestly just put Black Rose in the same spot if your deck can play Black Rose. And then beyond that, you don't really need to go back into that box from there. Then you have Coral Dragon. Coral Dragon is in a Megalith box, and unless you want to specifically play Megaliths, Coral Dragon is kind of the only card you'll pick up. It's a dragon synchro monster with an amazing effect, 2 amazing effects, being able to pop a card in the field and being able to draw a card. It is in a mini box, but the mini box is really, really bad unless you specifically want to play Megaliths, which is an okay strategy, but it isn't like an amazing strategy by any stretch of the imagination. So even though it is in a mini box, it's one of those where it's like, man, you only need 1 copy of this and then you're set. So if you want to play a strategy that can go into Onimaru, you want to play a strategy that, like TG or Shiranui, something like that, very, very good pickup for 1 dream ticket usage. Chaos Dragon Levianeer, one of the newer cards to be on the dream ticket list. Very, very core card when it comes to Thunder Dragons. It can be used as a boss monster for any light and dark decks. But it is in a very, very good box. That's the one thing to keep in mind when it comes to cards like this. It's in a box that has M7, Utopic Ray, Heliopolis. So you probably want to run through that box anyway. But it's one of those things where Levianeer, you'll need multiple copies of it, while those other things, most of the time, you'll need 1 copy of it. So you might want to run through that box once, and then maybe pick up another Chaos Dragon Levianeer with your UR Dream ticket afterwards. And then finally, for the UR Dream tickets, we have Gazuki. Very, very low on the priority list, but pretty much Gazuki for any zombie deck is a fantastic UR card. There's no rush to get this card. You can get it slowly over time, or 50% gem sales whenever we get to those 50% gem sales for this card. But it is a very staple card when it comes to zombie strategies, and zombie strategies have been relevant in Duel Links multiple times. So it's just a fantastic pickup if you have nothing else at all to pick up with your UR Dream ticket. Moving on to the SR Dream ticket. Now, SRs are interesting because there's not as many amazing SR cards, and most of them actually end up being in a mini box. So I actually have a few that I'd recommend for some people. This one kind of comes down to what deck are you going to play, because it really just ultimately ends up on what deck you're picking up. So for example, one of my #1 picks is Karma Cut. Karma Cut is a fantastic card, but you need to be playing it in a specific deck like Blue Eyes White Dragon or Shiranui, or a deck that can actually utilize the discarded material. It's not a card you're going to be putting in a lot of decks. And it's a mini box card as well, so it's kind of easy to fish for it if you don't end up dream ticketing for it. But if you do play a strategy that uses discard effectively, this is a fantastic pickup for your SR dream ticket. You do usually need 2 to 3 copies though, so keep that in mind. There is also Forbidden Chalice, one of those older cards, one of the older mini boxes as well. Very strong in, say, a Gaia strategy, which is one of my recommended decks for new players, as it's very cost efficient to get into the game with. And it can be used more offensively than, like, say, a Fiendish Chain to help you out as well. This is one of those I prefer to go with the dream tickets to get, but if you, with your 50% gem sale to get. But it is, a good SR dream ticket target if you're not looking to spend any gems. There is also Treacherous Trap Hole, probably one of the best traps if your deck can play it in the game. It does stop you from playing other traps, but most decks, if you're able to draw this card, you kind of automatically win. So it's not that big of a deal if they end up losing from there. Again, it isn't a mini box. Again, 50% gem sale is live for this card, so I would definitely prefer you go for that, especially since you only need 2 copies, since it's a hard limit 2. But if you end up going through it, get 1, and you don't really feel like going through it again, you don't want to spend any more gems, it's an easy dream ticket target that can immediately, this card alone can just win you games in a lot of scenarios. There is also offerings to the Doomed if you already kind of have all of the best staples. Pretty interesting quick play removal spell. It is kind of niche in that it makes you skip your next draw phase. But if you are playing an all-in strategy and you could see potential lethal, you could use this for spot removal to try and kill your opponent in a single turn, or just put them in a situation where they can't really play Yu-Gi-Oh anymore, and combo off. This could be a very strong card if you want to pick it up. We do also have Super Team Buddy Force Unite. Now this is used for more decks like Magnets or Witchcraft, or decks that have similar types of monsters in them. So any deck that can actually abuse this card ends up being very, very well. This card has been meta several times as well. Most recently with Desperado Barrel Dragon being sent for cost and summoning him back. So fantastic back row. It's also really good at baiting out back row removal. Sometimes people will try to MST this card, and then they just, it just sets up a new one, because if it's destroyed, it just sets up a new version for Super Team for you there from there. Fire Formation Tinky. This is a fantastic pickup for Yosinjus, Lunalights, anything that uses like that Beast Warrior kind of archetype can really take abuse of the Tinky, and it's one of those cards that will be fantastic for the future as well. Not to mention the box isn't that great. You get Excalibur, and then you get this, and that's pretty much it, and it's a main box. So this is, a fantastic choice if you plan on playing those decks, and even if you're not planning on playing those decks, if your dream ticket expires, a year down when you're watching this video, still could be a fantastic pickup to kind of help you play any future Beast Warrior decks. This card's still being played in things like TCG to this day. So in fact, I believe it was limited in TCG recently, so it's a card that'll get better as time goes on. There's also Lightning Vortex. Now this one's a little harder to recommend because it's in the Harpy box, which is a fantastic starter deck for new players. So if you don't want to be as efficient going with the Gaia, you can just roll up with something like Harpies. It's a mini box, and by the time you finish building Harpies, you're probably gonna have 1 to 2 copies of Lightning Vortex. But if you don't want to play Harpies, you want to play something else, this is a really good target to pick up. Lightning Vortex, no one plays around this in the ladder. You can win so many free games. It doesn't even, obviously decks like, again, Blue Eyes, Shiranui, Thunder, cards that can discard, or decks that can discard and get advantage are going to be the best users of this. But this card is so powerful that sometimes it can be put in like any deck, and it'll be a good strategy for ladder specifically. So I'd recommend it if you aren't going to go into the Harpies box. If you are going to go to the Harpies box, which I do recommend you go into the Harpies box if you're new, you don't need to buy this right away. Swallow's Nest, again, this is just the power of Harpies being one of the best free-to-play decks out there. Swallow's Nest is in a fairly terrible box as it from today's standards, so it's one of those scenarios where you do want this, you want Swallow's Nest at 3 copies, so you can just go in, get 2 copies instead, just go through the box once, and then just dream ticket your last one. Again, heavily recommended if you play Harpies, but if you don't, you can kind of ignore it. Malevolent Sin is a phenomenal X-Seed, dare I say, one of the best X-Seeds, if not the best X-Seed released from the Zexal era. The only reason this isn't like higher up on the recommendations is the box that it's in. Since now there's been nerfs for automats, and Photons isn't really a fantastic deck, you could run through that box once and pick up Malevolent Sin, Roach, Abyss Dweller, all those cards, and not necessarily waste your dream ticket since you're going for all that other stuff and getting this. Now, having 2 Malevolent Sins is not bad. Some decks do play 2, so that is something to consider. But before spending it on Malevolent Sin, I would definitely take a look at that box. It's a mini box, very, very easy to go through. No problems. SR Dream Ticket not necessary, but one to keep an eye on if you don't want the other ones for whatever reason. Going in from here, we also do have the Diamond Direwolf, which is a fantastic card. You only realistically need 1 copy of Diamond Direwolf to do most combos that you want to do. It is in a mini box, but the mini box isn't the greatest. Diamond Direwolf is like one of the fewly used cards in there, actually making it a very, very good Dream Ticket target. It basically just makes it a 1-for-1 pop. And yeah, you can out things, you know, like Necro Valley and stuff like that if you run into any of those decks. If you're playing those strategies, that can easily make a rank 4, but loses heavily to Necro Valley. Diamond Direwolf takes care of those cards for you. Some final considerations to take into account: Sage with Eyes of Blue. If you are playing Blue Eyes White Dragon and don't necessarily want to, you know, you spent a little bit of money on the game but don't necessarily want to go through the older Lightsworn box, but not a heavy recommendation because the Lightsworn box is actually pretty good. There's actually a lot of good stuff you can pick up from that, so I wouldn't consider going for it. And then the Resonator cards. Resonators, we have to see how the changes have affected them, but kind of seems like the deck might be dead for now. But if the deck survives, maybe in the future there'll be an update video to complement this, but as of right now, I wouldn't heavily recommend it. But if you really want to, you know, cosplay as Jack Atlas, you can also pick up the Resonator stuff, because that box is not that great outside of the Resonator stuff, which is all like SR stuff, to go from there. So that's going to be it for the SR, the UR Dream Ticket, SR Dream Ticket recommendation guide. Please leave any comments for any cards that you guys have personally used. Maybe, you know, can help out some new players. New players, check out the comments, see if you know, people agree, if there's some other cards that I might have missed on this list. I want to give a big shout out to all the new player helpers in our Discord. They're the ones that came up with a majority of this list. Definitely shout outs to them. If you're not a part of the Discord, go ahead and join the Discord. It's in the description as of the making of this video. We have a whole crew of people that's ready to help you. If you are unsure what to pick even after watching this video, come in and ask. They'll be able to ask you questions, get information out of you, and then use that information to better help you pick a card out of all the options that I gave you, because I know it's a lot of options that I gave you, but this is more to kind of you know, there's a lot of people where it's like, oh, I already have this, I already have this, I already have that, what should I get? And it's like, well, if you already have everything, you know, I'm just gonna keep recommending things as we go and go and go. And if all those don't work, then we have to know what your account looks like before we can really recommend a good card for you to keep. But that's going to be pretty much it for me. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the drill. I love you guys so much. I'm working on the ultimate new player guide that should be out by next week. If you're watching this video now, if you're watching in the future, I hope it was a good video. I hope you liked it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. I love you. Till the next video. Peace out, YouTube.